Picture an entity of absolute scale, an infinite static monolith. If you strike it, you do not damage it. If you attempt to decorate it, you add zero value. Your actions are entirely absorbed, leaving it perfectly unchanged. In the 11th century, the Persian philosopher and poet Nasser Khosrow examined this exact dynamic in a text called the al-Akhwan, or the Feast of the Brethren. He dedicated chapter 45 to a highly specific theological problem. He points out a core paradox in the concept of divine judgment. By definition, an absolute creator receives no tangible benefit from human virtue and suffers absolutely no damage or degradation from human sin. The creator is completely unaffected by the creation. This creates a logical contradiction regarding moral consequence. If an entity is unharmed by a transgression, there is no trigger to penalize the transgressor. We cannot apply standard human motivations here. A human judges a crime out of self-defense or to demand personal restitution for a loss. An omnipotent force has nothing to defend and has lost nothing to restore. Khosrow's solution uses a specific spatial analogy that connects disparate global frameworks into a single system of moral mechanics. Analyzing this model allows us to map the hidden architecture of cause and effect. Khosrow bypasses the idea of a deity sitting in a courtroom and instead frames the problem through architecture. He asks us to consider a wild, unowned mountain. This is a space devoid of authored design. It has no intended shape and serves no intended purpose. This animated diagram displays the two environments Khosrow compares. On the left, if you climb the unowned mountain, break its rocks, and dig holes into it, you trigger no systemic consequence. The environment is indifferent, so the system issues neither a reward nor a penalty. On the right side, Khosrow introduces the true foundation. This represents a reality authored with specific, rigid structural laws. It is an engineered system, built with intention. Within this model, God is defined strictly as the Lord of the foundation. The creator is the author of the structural reality itself, rather than an emotional judge reacting to personal slights. This explains the origin of negative consequence. If you act destructively within an engineered structure, if you damage a load-bearing pillar, the system reacts mathematically. Gravity pulls the roof down on you. It is a mechanical penalty inherent to the system's design. Positive consequence operates on the exact same structural logic. If you build upon the foundation and reinforce its integrity, the system inherently supports your position, expanding the stable area you can inhabit. These outcomes are built-in reactions of the physical and logical design. The architect does not need to feel angry to make a collapsed roof crush you, nor pleased to make a solid floor hold your weight. By treating reality as an engineered space, Khosrow removes emotion from divine judgment. Good and evil are redefined simply as objective structural alignment, or misalignment, with the architecture of reality. This concept of mechanical feedback is not limited to physical architecture. It scales perfectly to other properties of physics. 2 centuries after Khosrow, another Persian thinker, Jalal al-Din Rumi, explored the exact same paradox in his masterwork, the Mathnawi. This animated diagram models Rumi's famous acoustic analogy. He writes, "This world is a mountain, and our deeds are shouts. You emit a frequency, and the topography reflects it back. An echo has no capacity for moral judgment. It is a purely mechanical reflection of the initial output, returning exactly the energy it was given." Look at how the acoustic waves align with the architectural blueprint. Rumi's echo and Khosrow's foundation rely on the same underlying mechanism. The environment is highly ordered, and your actions violently or harmoniously intersect with that order. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Your support really means a lot and helps me keep creating content for you all. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. For Rumi, this means divine justice is inescapable, precisely because it is impersonal. It is as reliable and automatic as the physical laws of acoustics. When we shift our focus to 17th and 18th century Europe, we find Enlightenment philosophers confronting the exact same paradox of the unaffected absolute. This three-column timeline maps the European models alongside the Persian one. On the left is Baruch Spinoza. In his framework of God or nature, Spinoza fully agreed that the absolute is infinite and completely unaffected by human action. However, Spinoza diverges from Khosrow regarding the outcome. He argues that the concepts of moral reward and punishment are human illusions. What we perceive as divine judgment is just raw, blind cause and effect playing out through natural laws. Spinoza removes the moral dimension entirely. Khosrow, conversely, insists the foundation has an intended order, meaning human actions can be right or wrong based on whether they sustain or degrade that specific order. A century after Spinoza, Immanuel Kant developed a model that restored the moral dimension, focusing heavily on strict duties. Kant proposed the categorical imperative. These are structural laws of reason that dictate how a rational being must act, regardless of their desires. Notice the alignment here. Kant's moral laws do not exist to please or benefit a divine being. They are logical necessities. Violating them creates a contradiction in reason itself, mirroring exactly how Khosrow's foundation reacts structurally to being damaged. Without directly referencing the Persian texts, the Western Enlightenment independently deduced the same core principle. If an absolute cannot be harmed, consequence must be structurally derived rather than emotionally administered. We can test the universality of this foundation model by analyzing classical East Asian frameworks, which approach the absolute from an entirely different starting point. This animated diagram shows the transition to Taoist philosophy, articulated by Laozi and Zhuangzi. The Tao is the natural way of the universe. Unlike the authored systems of the Middle East and the West, the Tao is unauthored. It simply is. Yet the mechanics of consequence remain identical. If you act against the Tao, forcing outcomes or resisting the natural current, no judge hands down a punitive sentence. Your resistance itself creates systemic friction, and that friction exhausts and harms you. We see a similar mechanical strictness in the Buddhist and Hindu frameworks of karma. Karma operates as a completely decentralized automatic ledger. Every action generates an equal metaphysical reaction. Like Rumi's echo and Khosrow's foundation, the system balances itself instantly, without requiring a centralized processor to weigh the deeds. Across diverse geographies and eras, these traditions converge on a single principle. Moral consequence functions as a decentralized law of balance, rather than a ledger maintained by a deity. We began with a logical trap. Why would an omnipotent, invulnerable entity care enough to punish a human action that causes it zero harm? Khosrow's foundation model reveals a structured reality where human action necessarily interacts with established physical and logical laws. Look at how they align. The Islamic Golden Age, the Western Enlightenment, and Eastern antiquity all point to the exact same mechanics, merely viewed from different angles. Universal justice is not petty retribution. It is the inevitable structural feedback of a deeply ordered existence. There is no angry architect in the clouds. To do evil is to collapse the roof upon yourself. To do good is simply the act of building in mathematical harmony with the absolute architecture of reality.